For this special episode of Back to the City, I'm excited to be joined by Roslyn Moore. We're going to be talking about the album Hazy, which came out last year, 2016. It's being revamped, and not only is it being revamped, but it's expanding from 11 songs to around about twice that much.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And it's it's becoming its own thing with a different name. So what is Hazy becoming?
Tropic of Cancer.
Just as we were setting up the furniture, you were saying that the first song that you wrote for the project was the first song on Hazy, which is The Burbs. Will The Burbs remain the opening track?
Probably, because it tends to be people's favorite. Like, it's probably the most catchy.
It was one of my favorites. It sets a scene.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, sets a tone perfectly. And even though it's the oldest, I still.
Is that why it's the opening track on Hazy?
Yes and no. It's to set a scene and
Yeah.
a tone, because it kind of begins the whole story.
Because there are recurring characters, of course, and it's one of the few songs where I feel there's a broader perspective. We don't meet I don't know whether it's fair to call her Rosalind or Rose. She isn't necessarily present as a character, whereas by Drama Queen, for example, she's at least asserting that she is the main character.
Definitely in The Burbs, it is kind of more vague. It's more of an overall depiction of a way of living.
Yeah, a way of living in which we, meaning the girls in The Burbs, do it right. But there's not much parental interference and or guidance. The daddy's at work and mummy's wherever. Leaving Rosalind and the other girls, who will be left behind, I think, by track 2, to also do whatever, a different whatever. So how did you first find yourself writing this song? And at the time, were you conscious that one of the cast of characters in the Burbs, in the scene of The Burbs, would emerge as a protagonist?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we always knew that it's always been about trying to get to a better place, and a drive towards something we didn't necessarily know where we wanted to go at that moment. We were writing The Burbs.
Yeah. Who is the we? Who are you working with?
Me and Israeli. The Venus Suicides.
The Venus Suicides. Yes. Exactly. So all of the tracks on, all of the 11 tracks, and then all of the 20 plus tracks are a collaboration between the two of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does all the production.
Yeah. Do all of the songs emerge in the same way in terms of the songwriting process? No. So how did The Burbs evolve? And then can you think of, with that having been the first one, can you think of a song which evolved in a very different way, to give us a sense of the breadth of the different methods?
With The Burbs, it was a very, we were still just kind of starting to work together.
Yeah.
So it was a very organized session, and he had a general chord structure, with strings, because I was I really like strings. So that's where we kind of started, and we both were kind of experiencing symptoms of The Burbs.
Right. Okay. So there was an
time.
autobiographical component.
Yeah.
It's interesting the way that you were talking about it as composers, as songwriters. You were saying we were kind of driving, and it was about getting somewhere, but you didn't know where it would be. Yeah. Because I feel kind of within the narrative, that's also what's happening. Literally, that's what's happening. So we're just going round in circles, nowhere to go, nothing to do. But that's okay, because I'm here with you. That's interesting. So driving around The Burbs, but we don't stay in The Burbs for very long.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Malibu is going to be an important
Right.
destination. Is that where Rosalind is consciously heading? How soon after leaving the burbs does Rosalind find herself in Malibu?
That was the ending track on Hazy. Because it's just kind of where it kind of all comes together.
How neatly do things come together?
It's not so, I guess, timelined and set in stone.
Where does Shampoo fall in the narrative?
It's bounced around a little bit.
Okay,
it's
yeah.
fallen at the very end and towards the beginning as well.
Ah, yeah.
And kind of taken on different meanings.
In the version that I was listening to, it was right at the end, just after Malibu.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that interesting because, you know, we have this character, Rosalind, who begins in the burbs knowing that there must be somewhere other than the burbs, wanting a great escape, which is one of the new songs is called Great Escape. But in this initial 11-song narrative, in the version that I was listening to, it ends with she meets at least one man. She has her heart broken, but that's okay, because then there's another. Are there multiple men along this journey?
I think there's multiple male roles.
Yeah. Jonathan
throughout the
is
story.
a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I Want to Die Tonight with Jonathan, in the version that I was listening to, Red Roses track 6 are right in the center. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it seems like she starts in the burbs. She, at some point, meets Jonathan. That relationship, the interpersonal relations, kind of shift in different ways. And then at one point, by the time we get to Drama Queen, it seems like she's kind of seizing control and asserting again that she's the one who really runs the show, and she's going to kind of take control of her destiny. But by the end, she's left kind of tormented by, I assumed it was Jonathan's Shampoo. So what's the significance of Shampoo as a possible end to a narrative?
It feels like it's about someone's ghost, like the ghost of someone that's haunting you, rather than like the literal person.
Yeah.
So when you kind of like feeling their presence in different sense, or just
Yeah, so she's trapped like she was in the burbs at the beginning. But with that particular song, it seems like what's come of the adventure, journey, driving around, dancing around that's happened in the meantime is becoming haunted. So there are other moments where the idea of, and this is celebrated in one of the new songs, The Great Escape, the idea of driving off the cliff together.
Yeah.
So there are moments like that where Rosalind seems to be united with someone, and there's a celebration of that. But this is one of, I mean, they're all sad. It's like sadcore is the genre. But Shampoo is almost the saddest, because she doesn't have the sense of autonomy that she's seizing at some moments.
Yeah.
And yet she is alone.
I'm just really happy that you thought Shampoo is the saddest, because I feel the same way. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it the saddest for you?
I don't know, the feeling of losing somebody, or just like that ache, is just like so sharp, and I think everybody just kind of knows that, because at least I don't know anybody who hasn't experienced a loss of some kind. It doesn't have to be a death per se, but
there's an interesting relationship between Shampoo and another one of the new ones that's going to be added, which I think is called EXO. Insofar as, again, there's the feeling of this absence. There Rosalind desires someone who is like the absent person, but in such specificity that they are the absent person in many different respects. So And that's interesting. It sounds very different from Shampoo. It sounds almost like it sounds like the Burbs.
Yeah.
It's more dancey.
It was originally created around the same time as
Oh,
the
okay.
Burbs.
So it didn't make Hazy.
Yeah. It just wasn't kind of looking right, and then it did.
Was it something about the expansion to a narrative or a collection of songs within one reality that's twice as large that suddenly created space? And or was it something about just how the song evolved that suddenly it fit? A combination of those two things, or more one than the other?
Combination.
Yeah.
Because it really fit into Hazy.
It's interesting. There's the sense of there's a driving bass, and there's a kind of energy. But as the song develops, it's like an uncomfortable drive. There are other men who seem at times like they could be like this absent one, but you know, under the bed sheets, for example. But then she keeps on waking up and coming back to her senses and realizing, no, it's not this one. The prison that she's in there is like the prison of constantly searching for this one specific person. Is that the same? Is that Jonathan, or is Jonathan like, does the Jonathan character signify like one type of relationship and this is a different one? Or
it is a literal person and it is the same character, but it's also just like that, whatever the desire is in a way. It kind of is both at times.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So there's an actual person, but then the Rosalind character is, you know, maybe has an idealized version of that person.
Well, yeah, or more so like the guy, the Jonathan, that he is the one taking us on the journey, like,
right,
for the whole trip. So it's kind of like wanting that specific trip.
There are times, okay, so the idea, the abstract idea of the trip, and he's kind of the driver and literally the driver as well.
Takes you along, correct? Yeah, it's kind of.
So
gets it going, takes you out of the burbs.
Yeah.
More or less.
Smiling seems significant. One of the things that Rosalind is focusing on, the particular things about him that she's focusing on in XO, is the smile. And the smile first occurs in Pretty Girls and Gin. He smiles, I take a drink. He shakes his head and he says, Pretty Girls and Gin. There's a Ferris wheel, I think, makes its first appearance in that song, and then it shows up again later. What's the significance of this Ferris wheel?
Partially because Ferris wheels are, you know,
An exciting ride, yeah.
And they take you up, and
yeah,
down, and up, and down.
Yeah, and the ups and downs become
exciting, but then it can also be, I don't know, if you're afraid of heights or something, it can be scary. So it's kind of metaphoric as well as literal, because, you know, Ferris wheels are cool.
Yeah, in this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just like the drive is literal and metaphorical, and the fact that Jonathan is driving is literal and metaphorical also.
Yeah, I feel like it can be both, and still it works.
Yeah, and then in Hazy, is Hazy another one that references the Ferris wheel? Yeah.
It is.
And then that also has the recurring, are we at the top? I'm not sure. So we've got this broad metaphor of like a journey. We know it begins in the burbs. We don't know whether it's going anywhere. Maybe it's going to Malibu. But if it goes to Malibu, there's going to be some kind of twist. It's not going to be like a simple beginning, middle, end to happily ever after in Malibu story. And then, so there's that metaphor of forward movement. And then there's a metaphor of ascent too. And the idea of, you know, are we at the top? I'm not sure. So Rosalind seems to be sure at times that there is at least a direction that's being gone in, whether it's forward or up, and then
always moving.
And then other moments where I feel like there are other moments though where suddenly the quite terrifying feeling of, but are we consistently going in one direction, kind of comes up. And then there's the idea, the car isn't going anywhere, it's just going around in circles, or we're dancing in circles, is another lyric at one point. So what do you think of those, those metaphors, the idea of an ascent? Are we at the top? I think there's somewhere higher where, the other people, the pretty people, what kind of people?
I refer to them a few different ways.
Yeah, exactly, I feel like we could get higher than this.
Yeah.
And literally, like, in terms of drugs, is all, can we, in terms of the story of coke and weed.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and like, just knowing that there's another way to be living.
So constantly, never settling for.
Yeah, that is
anything?
kind of a recurring theme.
Yeah.
I guess now that I think about it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, there's always been, the drive towards just freedom and trying to figure out what that even is.
Yeah, exactly, because often the drive towards, as soon as it seems like a drive towards something, it seems like that's driven away from too, including the Jonathan character, and so who often she's celebrating not being with a specific, one specific person. When I saw you perform at Ice House, in the introduction, it was said, if there's one person whose music sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie, then it's Roslyn. And I feel like that Tarantino flavor is part of like the desert flair that you're talking about. That really comes through in like this new song Coke and Weed, for example. And the guitar is, like the Tarantino-esque desert-like guitar is important.
Yeah, it's kind of like Spanish flair.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like is that becoming more prominent on some of the newer songs? How frequently do we have that full-blown Tarantino style guitar?
It's gonna be alright, 'cause we got love on our side.
So I feel like the Tropic of Cancer is going to be more desert-like and Tarantino-esque than Hazy.
Yeah, probably.
And I feel like Coke and Weed, that song is perhaps the song where the one has the feeling, the strongest feeling of heading somewhere fast in one direction, but it's not necessarily the story of Coke and Weed. It's not necessarily, it's like a nail biting white knuckle story that armed robbery is occurring. Nobody move, you're all gonna die, and it's very kind of full blown and grandiose. But obviously there's a sense of impending doom. At what stage was that written? That was written after these Hazy songs?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when. It was a while before the release when we put it out, but it's definitely after Hazy was released, like within 2017, probably January-ish.
But also definitely within the world of Hazy.
Yeah. We just always kind of stayed there because we wanted to do more videos and stuff, because we just had a lot of visual ideas that we haven't had the resources to really bring to life the way we want to, so we just didn't do them.
Yeah.
So like we've always kind of had it still with us, and so in the new material we were doing, it was still there, so it just kind of continued the same story.
Can you highlight some of what you have done visually so far?
Yeah, we did a video for Suicide Note,
Mm-hmm.
which was very spur of the moment, but it was
Where was it?
really fun.
Where did he film it?
We filmed it in Joshua Tree,
Mm-hmm.
California, in the desert.
Of course.
Of course. And we knew we were going to go out there when we were in California, because it's been a place that we've liked and feel inspired by. And we knew we wanted to film a video, but we were like, we're here, we have to film a video and use the aesthetic.
Yeah.
But
it looks like we sound, we need to use it.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, it's too perfect. So we kind of just threw together a video idea that we felt still really was true to our style.
Yeah.
And went with it.
We're currently in a tapestry. We are amidst the music video at the moment to give viewers a sense of what you created. What plans do you have to kind of expand the cinematic side of things?
We want to be able to take it to an even more cinematic level than Suicide Note. We want to do something where we can really plan it out and create something, but there's so many other things we want to do that's and we have so much time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many songs to work on.
The one thing that's certain is that there will be more video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point.
We didn't ever establish, why is it called the Tropic of Cancer?
The most basic sense came from the Henry Miller novel.
Yeah,
Tropic
sure.
of Cancer.
So read the book. If you haven't read that novel, read the novel and you can piece everything together. Read the novel to the soundtrack of the Tropic of Cancer.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, you can read it.
In Malibu.
Yeah.
Whilst
It's a
dancing.
good place to read.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You've got your assignments now, viewer. Viewers. They'll all be heading to Malibu with their Henry Miller.
It's not. You can still listen without reading it. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, you have been listening to many of the songs throughout our conversation, beneath our conversation, and hopefully you're eagerly anticipating being able to listen to the new ones without our voices, as nice as our voices are, over the top of it, which is soon. So thank you very much for viewing. I'm Simon Coulter. This is Back to the City. This is Roslyn Moore, and we'll see you in reality sometime soon.